Alright guys, welcome back to the Top RC build. We're kind of banging through these videos on a daily basis. So, a couple things since last night's video. I repainted the prop, put my own decals on it, painted the hub. I actually repainted the whole thing actually. Uh, Definitely like the look of it. Looks really sweet. So I got the cowling. I'll take it off in a second, but I laid up carbon fiber and fiberglass around the cowling and a couple extra patches where the mounts are. So it's all mounted up now. I also opened up the cowl flaps so to get some more cooling air out of this cowling because they come pretty tightly cowled. So I got to pull this off and I'm going to cut the lower part of the cowling out so I can have access to the motor while the prop and the cowling are on, because otherwise I got to take the prop and the cowl off. And with the spark plug sticking out a lot, it's a huge pain to get a cowling on. So I'm probably going to convert to the smaller plugs at some point, but I don't have them right now. So I'm just going to run these as is. I'm going to have some holes right here where the plugs stick out, which, you know, on a gray scheme will be pretty obvious. On a blue one, you probably won't even notice them. But anyways, did a couple more test runs today. Tried to do some dynamic prop balancing with some tape. This prop has a little wobble to it, unlike the Bearcat, which runs really smooth. And so it's better, but it's got a couple of kind of rough spots in it that aren't fantastic. It doesn't shake the plane too bad, but what it does is, because it's a hollow fuselage, the resonance really hits right here through the center. So you can hold on to the firewall and it's not that bad. If you hold on back here, you don't feel it too bad. But right through the canopy area, it just shakes the crap out of it. So, but I've also been running without the wings on it, so I know that tends to dampen out some of the vibrations. So hopefully that'll help. And made a couple more small changes to the prop. So I think it's wobbling because it wasn't quite fully seated, because some of the holes were a little too tight with the screws going in. So I think it was keeping it from sitting properly. So I've changed that. I've opened up the holes a little bit. So we'll see if that helps. So I had to re-glue in the seat and the side console because they popped out from the vibrations. To be fair, they're just like super glued in or something, and it's plastic. None of it's been like sanded or abraded to help stuff stick. And so stuff was just popping out. So I've used some contact cement now, which should hopefully help hold everything in. I'm going to safety wire the pilot in once all that stuff dries. And then for now, I'd love to do a sliding canopy, but for now I'm just going to screw the canopy on with like 4 screws to hold it in place. Because, man, unless I can get this vibration lower, I don't know that the mounts and the canopy would hold up very well to the vibrations. But to be fair, when I run the Bearcat with no wing on it, it shakes the crap out of it as well. So I think the wing takes out a lot of it helps absorb a lot of the vibrations. So anyways, this one runs really smooth though. I mean, once you're past idle, this thing is you almost can't feel it. And I'm tempted just to bring the prop with me, just in case I don't like the way this one's running. I can swap out the prop to the 4-blade and do some more flying tomorrow. I'm really hoping to finish this thing up tonight. It's going to be a late night, but once I get the cowling done, then the rest is just the flaps and ailerons. So let me pop open the hatch here, show you guys the radio. So everything's a little messy right now because I haven't mounted the antennas yet, and I haven't run all the wires through. I have a few of them running through right now, but we have the ignition and power switch right here for the radio and for the ignition. This is the Synapse gyro unit itself, and then the receiver, 2 receiver packs, and then I'll have a 3rd pack right here, which is going to run the ignition and the retracts. So obviously I got to deal with all the wires and stuff still, but pretty nice having it all right up in here and easily accessible. That's the one thing with the Bearcat that kind of sucks, is it doesn't have a hatch. So if you ever have to get to anything, you have to take the wing off, and you can't see how much fuel's left in it after a flight. And I think this 32 ounces is going to be plenty, because I ran it a bunch today, and I probably ran it for 20 minutes. So, granted, not full throttle the whole time, but anyways, motor's loosening up really well. And yeah, let me get to work on this cowling here. Alright, so I got the bottom cut out. See, I got unfortunately, the plugs are all the way back in the cowl flaps. I got the hole's kind of big. I can close them up a little bit at some point before I go to repaint this thing. But anyways, so this will go back on here like this. Like that, not too bad. It'll stick out, but I mean, this thing were dark blue, you'd never see it. Anyways, so I gotta put some little mount flanges on the cowling to screw this to it. Do a choke setup, and then I think I can close the cowling up for now. So, anywho, yes sir. All right, so I'm trying to figure out the flap hinge point here. So these were the original flap hinges, which create a Fowler flap effect. The real Corsair is not like that, so I'm trying to find the hinge point. And I've just taped these hinges in place. I'm not going to use these hinges. I'm just trying to figure out where to pivot. And this appears to be pretty much perfect. So I'm going to make some hinges here out of some fiberglass and then probably hinge them with a bolt and a nut. But anyways, the rest of the airplane's pretty much ready. So the cowling's all done, motor's all buttoned up. All that stuff's done. You see the spark plugs stick out a little bit. Not horrible. If this were dark blue, you'd barely notice those. So lots of little odds and ends to finish up here, but we'll see about finishing this thing up tonight. It's gonna be a late one. Anywho, let's get back to these flaps. Alrighty, so ailerons hinged and got my new flap hinges all set up here. I made a whole bunch of new parts. You see I got a nut and a bolt. And yeah. So she's drying. I got it all taped in position. Flight control gaps are nice and tight, so movie's too loud. But yeah, once this cures, then we'll know. Well, I already know it's going to work, but we'll hook the servos up and go to the other wing. Alright guys, well, like always, it takes way longer than you think it's going to. But I have the first flap is fully figured out. And I have it to where the arm is in line with the push rod when at full deflection. So that relieves the stress off the motor of the servo and just places the stress onto the servo panel and the connection point and the hinges. So, but at least the servo is not working during full flap extension. But you can see now, this is how a real Corsair flap works. So you do have some air passing through here, some high pressure air coming out the backside. But let me flip this thing over. What you do get is a really nice tight gap. It's hard to do this with one hand. Basically, you see the push rod connection right there. So the distance between that pivot point and that pivot point is the moment arm of the flight control, and so I'm getting almost full swing of the servo and this thing is absolutely locked into place at full deflection, which on a model this size with these large of a flap, you definitely want that. So pretty happy with how that turned out. Now I just got to do it 3 more times. So the inboard flaps are on one servo and the outboard flaps on one. So the aileron is done. That was pretty simple. Almost scale. Anyways, it is almost 2 o'clock in the morning. So I am definitely not going to make it for a first flight tomorrow. But looks like Wednesday will be the day. So I should be able to finish this up tomorrow, New Year's Eve, and yeah, look at that, nice flight control gaps, looking sweet. Let's see if I can, okay, there we go. So even at full deflection, very minimal gap on the flight control, which is super cool. Very, very cool. All right, well, I guess that's it for tonight. We'll check back in tomorrow after more progress. All right, guys, both outer wing panels are done. Well, these flaps work freaking sweet. Turned out really nice. Pretty happy with all that. So, on to the center section. Yay. Alright guys, so working on the inboard flaps now. So what I've had to do here is I've had to do some shimming while everything cures. I also had to do some clearancing in the middle here. And I think I may end up making a sliding joiner between these two. It already has one right here because the servo is pushing on this flap. And this one has its own servo. Typically you drive it off the center flap for both sides, but this one's got two separate sides. But I'm got the feeling that this isn't going to want to function really nicely without it being attached to the outboard one as well. So we'll see how it works out. I may end up adding one of those. If it works okay, I'll probably just leave it, but it's not it wouldn't take very long for me to make something to put in there, and I might just do it anyways. But anyways, yeah, just getting there. So once this is all cured, put the servos in it, and then I just got to route wires and do all the radio setup stuff. So this has been taking way longer than I anticipated. These flaps are killing me, but this thing's crazy. I don't know if my hand's way down here. I got a big hand. This is a lot of wing. I mean, it's a freaking canoe. So it's a lot of wing area, and these flaps are massive. So pretty stoked on this thing. I know I have it. My friends always give me a hard time because my handle on RC groups is Corsair nut, but I've never really had. I've had a couple of decent Corsairs, but nothing awesome. Like I've had a ton of Bearcats, and this is kind of like the pinnacle of Bearcats for me. Well, this model is kind of the pinnacle of Corsairs for me, and that's going to be the pinnacle of P47s for me because, well, I can't afford the Carf stuff. That's way outside of my price range, but definitely spent enough on this one as it is. But definitely, I think maybe I haven't done many Corsairs because I wanted to do one really nice, like a really nice scale one, and there's not many options out there, and this is a killer size with the ability to have a big motor in it, scale gear, scale flaps, hopefully a sliding canopy. And if you can tell by this drawing on my wall, I've been a Corsair and a P47 fan for a really long time. I drew these in CAD by eyesight, not by taking measurements when I was in high school. So I had some 3 views, and we had a real simple CAD program on an old Macintosh in my drafting class. And I had taken drafting so many times that the teacher didn't have any assignments for me, so I started doing my own stuff. I drew up a bunch of like airplane plans and stuff. My mom came across this recently and gave it to me, and I had totally forgotten about it, but I'm not gonna lie, those look pretty good just by going off of memory and looking at a picture. But anyways, I've always loved Corsairs and P47s. The Bearcat's kind of like my new love. I didn't focus on a whole lot when I was younger. It was mostly Corsairs and Thunderbolts, but anywho, I still think the Bearcat's probably my favorite, but Corsair is like right there with it. It's such a cool airplane. Not in this paint scheme, sorry guys, but anyways, I think we're going to end the video there because it's probably already too long, and but we're on the home stretch. So as soon as I get these inboard flaps working and run all the radio gear into the airplane and sort it all out, program the radio, that's it. Everything in the cowling's done, tails are all done, landing gear's done, the gear doors are done. So now it's just down to the last few little things to do here, and definitely didn't make the maiden today, but that's all right. We are planning to go out tomorrow, so, and Bentley just got his new Viper 90 in the mail, so Sure he'll be excited to slap that together before we go tomorrow. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you at the maiden.